Hello, I'm Garry, Lyon, and welcome to the 2014 wash-up for Port Adelaide. Damien, Barrett, is there another team out there that's as exciting to watch in full flight than the Power?
Look, it's probably the only team that is a Sydney Swans on the back of a Garry Rowan surge with Buddy Franklin ending up with the ball. But look, consistently, no. I mean, what they did to some teams this year, just in explosive bursts and winning the two finals as they did and going right to the wire in a prelim. No, and they did it on the back of just what fans love to watch, just hard, attacking, exciting footy.
Well, let me put up as Exhibit A for the highlight of the year for me, the type of footy you're talking about. That's that first final against Richmond. That was as breathtaking a half of footy and ball movement. And I mean, the whole scene was set. Adelaide Oval absolutely heaving. The Port Adelaide fans going nuts. The Tiger fans over there with great expectation. This was arguably the team goal of the year. Look at the scoreline, 65-8. This is an example of their manic intensity and hard running. And you'll see the 50-50 footy that Hartlett has to go.
I love this play here.
It could be excused for not going that hard, Damo, but that wasn't in their DNA. And they had an excitement about them that just reinvigorated people going along to the footy over there. And it was a great story.
Yeah, my highlight, Gaz, is a man who was instrumental in some of those passages of play we referred to. Robbie Gray, not just elevated himself into the best at Port Adelaide, but the best amongst the competition. It was an extraordinary, I felt, rise, because we always knew he had ability, but not this high-end ability. I mean, you, and rightly so at the time, questioned his standing in the game only two or 3 years ago, and it was very valid at the time, but could you have possibly foreseen what you saw in 2014?
No, which is why I admire him so much, because that time where I did question him was a game at Etihad Stadium, and it was in the Matty Primus area when they were really struggling, and he just looked like he didn't want to be there. Yeah. I mean, it sort of got too hard for him, and then he had the knee injury. He's come back, and, wow, what a year. So I can't argue with you there. Low light. Well, there was a meningitis outbreak. I know it sounds funny and people will sort of laugh and giggle, but I think it had a real impact in that footy club. And it's hard to quantify, but it swept through the whole club. It put players in hospital. It certainly impacted on their training load, and I think it had an impact in that slump in the middle part of the year.
Yeah, well, my low light is linked to that issue you referred to, Gaz, and particularly and specifically the round 15 loss to the Crows in one of the showdowns. We know they hate them, but yeah, it came at a time when they went through a streak of matches that had them only winning 1 out of 6, and it is with meningitis, the loss of the Crows, and look, while they had excuses for what happened in that patch, it ultimately forced them out of the top 4, and you just don't know what that meant when it came to the crunch in the prelim final, having played the 2 matches and not having had the luxury of a break, as their opponent did in that game.
No, fair enough too, and Christmas bonus time, I reckon there's plenty of Port Adelaide players that could get a bonus, but for me it was this boy, Matty White, who effectively left for nothing from Richmond. Yeah. And you know what? He's got everything that the Tigers needed throughout the course of this year, and that is the leg speed. I mean, have a look at this.
I love this play.
And this is against Richmond. I mean, they would have been sitting there going, what have we done? Great chase by Morris, but then just finds another gear. And bounces. And kicks the goal. That is a goal of the year for me, Damo. So that is a Christmas bonus, well-deserved and well-earned, and he was terrific in the final against the Hawks.
Mine's going to the captain, Gaz, Travis Boak. He's already on a lot of money, but he deserves more for what he did in 2014. And if you want to trace back the resurgence of Port Adelaide, you can to this man, can't you? It goes right back to him at the top of the line.
I reckon.
He stayed when he was meant to go, and you can see why he did, because he could see a future that very few of us could see on the outside. And Gaz, look, with this ferocious tackling, he's got some great skill too, and I just loved how he led that team in the prelim final, both at the start of the game when they set up a nice little buffer, but more particularly, and I think more impressively, when it was against them late in the piece, he was still there right at the end and nearly got them into a grand final.
Well, you know I like to argue with you, Damien, but I can't on that because he was magnificent. I also have found a couple of shekels for Sean Hart because he's the man who sits behind Ken Hinkley and has got to calm him down, Damo. And he nearly got a backhander there.
There's not a nicer bloke in footy than Sean Hart, Gaz, and he nearly copped it there just for trying to look after Ken.
Exactly right.
Who's on your chopping block?
Look, I don't do this with any great deal of joy because he's got ability and got talent, but Johnny the Butcher for me is he's kicking. I think we've said this many, many times. He's got ability, but when you've got a case of the kicking yips in front of goals, then maybe send him somewhere else to see if they can fix it for the good of the boy.
Yeah, it's quite sad, isn't it?
It is. I'm not, I don't say it with any joy.
No, you don't. Hey, my chopping block goes to Brent Renouf, big ruckman, and also Redden, Gaz. They rate Redden, but he just can't get his body right to help Lobie, and Lobie cannot go into 2015 without a proper and reliable backup as a ruckman. So whether Redden somehow stays and develops, but I think Renouf's time is almost certainly up.
Well, what do they need to improve, and the type of players they need to recruit. Well, the ruckman, you're right, they need support for Lobie. I'm going to go with Jad Wingard, who showed us in that final that he's got the ability to turn a game in the space of 10 minutes. He needs to develop a tank.
Yep.
I know they work him hard at Port Adelaide, so hopefully he can develop that sort of that endurance fitness base that allows him to spend more time in the middle of the ground, because he could then become one of the very best players in the competition.
I'm going for some backup for Jay Schultz there, Gaz. He kicked high 60s in goals, great return, but probably faded a little bit. And that may have just been on the back of the workload that was required of him. He just doesn't get the big man support. Look, I know the Hoff is thereabouts, Gaz, but he's probably better up the ground a little bit further. And look, Butcher just hasn't worked. So they need to get someone in there to help him out.
Damo, you've painted a picture for Paddy Ryder in both instances there. So watch this space.
Yeah,
up, down, stagnate.
Well, look, you're buying him at a high price. I'm still buying him. They're going up. Grand final next year for Port.
I'm bullish too, Damo. They finished 5th. I expect them to be in the top 4 as well. So up for me nicely, Port Adelaide. Lots to get excited about. Thank you very much, Damien Barrett. That is the wash-up for the Port Adelaide Footy Club in 2014.